This is Swiftlet, a Taylor Swift podcast with a literary twist. Today's episode is all about your theories for Taylor's next studio album, aka TS12. As always, I am your host, Peyton Edwards. For me, I'm expecting some sultry, sexy tracks like So It Goes, Dress, and False God. I also wouldn't be too surprised if she had a few songs dealing with healing, self-worth, and confidence too. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a song similar to Kelsea Ballerini's Leave Me Again. There's also probably going to be classic Swift songs about falling in love in the vein of Cornelia Street. For sound, I think it's going to be poppy. It would be really cool if she leaned more into the R&B sound that's on I'm Gonna Get You Back. I'm thinking that it's going to have some pop classics and absolute bops. I'd love to see her work with some new producers, maybe some women, just to see what happens. I would like her to complete the theme she started on Speak Now and have a track titled Yours. I think it will have a similar rollout to Lovers, in the sense that we'll first hear news of it in the spring, but the album itself won't be released until sometime during the summer. I don't see her breaking the tradition she set with her recent albums by releasing a single ahead of the album's release. I think for her, it's important that fans experience the music as a whole instead of chopping it up into bits and pieces. Now, let's get into some of your theories. Genre, sound, and song themes. First up, what you all think will be the genre, sounds, and themes present on TS12. Kaylin, aka Kaylin Angelina on Twitter writes, quote, I think the album will be more sultry sounding and maybe a little more rock, but like Stevie Nicks type of rock. But I could also see that being mixed with a more R&B pop sound. I think Soundwave will produce as well as Jack, end quote. Rain believes, quote, it is gonna probably be synth pop. Probably we're gonna get something like I Think He Knows, So It Goes, Dancing with Our Hands Tied, and False God, but more hot and more loving. She's gonna show the world what is a real love, end quote. Anonymous 1 writes, quote, the album will be full pop and bop, a la 1989, but even more personal and profound. It will be about finally healing, finding love, feeling young again, being able to see and understand your past and to move forward, end quote. Anonymous 2 says, quote, I'm sure she will change genres. I hope it explores 70s soft rock. That doesn't mean I don't want upbeat songs, just a bit of sadness and happiness. You know, a bit of both, end quote. Lantern Burning 19 on Tumblr believes, quote, I can see Taylor redefining things from her past discography, end quote. Deepest Collection Tales on Tumblr envisions the songs being, quote, fun, upbeat, funny. Song 5 just wedding bells pealing. Just joking, but? End quote. Lacey, aka Cowboy Who Hates It Here, on Tumblr writes, quote, I think country folk sound, thematically more lighthearted than recent stuff. A lot of chill rock sounds like I'm Gonna Get You Back, or similar to the Haim Women in Music Part 3 album sound. At least one song will reference constantly being placed on jumbotrons and NFL TV screens, with the catch either being, I don't care, I'm just here to celebrate and live my life, or a more aggravated, what, do you think I control these cameramen? You tell them to stop if you hate me so much. I think some songs will show her strong country roots with more twang and detailed storytelling, along the lines of I Bet You Think About Me or Right Where You Left Me, but the album as a whole will not be labeled or viewed as country, end quote. Anonymous 3 says, quote, I can see her doing a couple fictional or semi-fictional songs since she was flirting with that on the Tortured Poets department. I think she'll probably stick to that synth pop sound she's had for the last few albums, and it'll just have the slight sonic differences from TTPD, and similar to how TTPD differed from Midnight's. I don't know if it'll be as happy as everyone thinks it will be, although I think there will be some happy songs. I can see her returning to political songs in the same way she did in Miss Americana and the Heartbreak Prince, like subtle but definitely there, end quote. Jen, Gave You I, on Tumblr envisions it as, quote, romance, jazzy sounds, fun instrumentals, more songs like Begin Again, So High School, Ready For It, and Lover. Thinking it will have a more mature and content sound to it. Can't wait, end quote. Anonymous 4 anticipates TS12 to be, quote, sexy, so sweet and sexy. Very much vibes of love without that undercurrent of anxiety so present in Rep and Lover. Also, I think we will get more Joe Over, that kind of grief being more uncovered in comparison. Sound-wise, feeling like we are going to get some new guest producers, lots of Jack, and mix of like The Bolter, Is It Over Now, Lover, and The Alchemy. Very high-key pop takeover vibes, end quote. Aesthetic. Next up, the album's overall aesthetic, from color scheme to photoshoot vibes. Kaylin sees the album aesthetic as follows, quote, I think there's a good chance the album will be orange, but I could also see a sunset/sunrise theme with multiple colors red, orange, lilac, pink. I think it could be about the sunrise after the tortured midnight all-nighters. I think the photo shoot will be very vintage Americana, end quote. Rain believes, quote, it's probably going to be orange-red with golden, and this era is going to have a ponytail as a hairstyle, end quote. Ann1 writes, quote, I think the color theme will be very bright colors, like the red we saw at the Grammys, end quote. Ann2 says, quote, I think the new album will have orange and red as its main colors, end quote. Lantern Burning 19 sees the aesthetic as, quote, the color red, Americana, fairy tales, nights. I also hope this album breaks the color assignment thing. I hope fans don't try to fit it into the Lover House because I think this album will be something beyond that. I think she's going to enter a whole new level with this album, end quote. Lacey envisions, quote, a sunsetish orange color scheme, end quote. Ann3 believes it will be, quote, kind of a 1950s aesthetic, very bright and colorful. I feel like its color is going to be orange and cherry red, end quote. Ann4 writes, quote, thinking classic pinup styling, end quote. Track names and title. Next, possible track titles and what will eventually replace TS12 when referring to the album. Rain thinks that there is, quote, probably going to have a song called Wild, end quote. Deepest Collection Tales thinks, quote, Beloved, or TNT, or T, or perhaps even Travis, end quote, as possibilities for the album's name. Ann3 believes, quote, it's definitely going to be called T, end quote. Collaborations. Next up, potential collaborations on the album. Kaylin writes, quote, collabs I could see are Kendrick Lamar, Sabrina Carpenter, and Stevie Nicks, end quote. Lacey believes, quote, if any collaborations, my guess is on a former Bleachers collab, not just Jack producing, and possibly Beyonce, end quote. Release. Finally, when you all think it might be released. Kaylin writes, quote, I think we're getting TS12 this year. I'm thinking a March 21st announcement and a May 23rd release, end quote. Rain predicts that it will be released in April, May, or June. Ann1 says, quote, I think the release is going to be May, end quote. Ann2 writes, quote, I hope it will be announced this year, but I think she will stick to the usual plan, 2 re-recordings, 1 new one. Anyway, this time it will release with 2 main singles, one at the beginning of 2026 and one toward the middle, and then go back to the usual release around October or November. But you know what? She might surprise us and TS12 will be nothing but the soundtrack of her new movie, end quote. Deepest Collection Tales believes, quote, perhaps May the 5th month from the 5 rubies in the T, maybe 5th of December for something, 12 rubies in the earrings or something else 12/12, end quote. It seems like there's a bit of consensus on the color scheme, overall vibes of the album, lots of bright colors and love songs, more pop and possibly some other genres, and it being released sometime this year. We'll just have to wait and see what Taylor has up her sleeve. Thank you all for sending in your theories. I have enjoyed reading them over, and there wouldn't be an episode if it weren't for you all. Thank you for listening to this episode of Swiftlit. This episode was written and edited by me, Peyton Edwards. I hope you enjoyed listening, and if you did, please rate, review, and share this podcast. All that good stuff. You can connect with me on Instagram and the site formerly known as Twitter @SwiftLitPodcast.